Vendors use the service entrance, champ. Wait where you're told.
It's for the 40th floor. The floor, the glass, the name on that desk. He owned every inch of it. He never said.
Any training at all? Wipe the floor.
Sorry, sir. I'll clean it.
You still here, champ? Freight desk's down the hall.
It needs a signature from 40. That's the instruction. I'd rather stand for this. I told you to sit. Somebody's on his way down.
Vendors use the service entrance, champ. Marcus Vale said it without slowing down, without once looking at the man's face, one thumb already back on his phone. Sam Ellery stood in the middle of the lobby in a gray courier jacket, a padded envelope held in both hands, at 10 minutes to 5 on a Friday. He nodded, stepped back, and lowered himself onto the hard bench by the window, like a man who had been told where he belonged. He would sit there for 40 minutes. Here is the part none of them knew. The floor they walked on, the glass above their heads, the name etched into the reception desk. Sam owned the controlling share of all of it. And at 32 minutes past 5, someone else was going to say that out loud. He did not correct Vale. He never did. The envelope in his hands was the last drop of his route, a thin thing addressed to the legal office on the 40th floor, and he had signed for it that morning, without knowing whose building it would take him to. Couriers learn to hold still. They learn that a man in a delivery jacket is a piece of furniture with legs, that nobody in a place like this reads the face above the clipboard. Sam had made his peace with that years ago. Today, of all days, invisibility suited him fine. The lobby smelled of cold coffee and floor polish. An espresso machine hissed behind a marble counter where no one offered him anything, and the turnstiles clicked and swallowed employees one at a time, their badges flashing green. Sam watched the little green light and thought, without heat, that he could walk through any door in the building if he wanted. He didn't want. He set the envelope on his knee, smoothed the tape with his thumb, and waited to be acknowledged like everybody else who carried things for a living. 4 months ago, a man named Harold Vance had died in a hospital bed with Sam's hand around his. Harold had built this company from a 2-room office and a bad loan, and when the will was read, the lawyers used a word Sam kept turning over like a stone in his shoe: controlling. Sam had never attended a board meeting. He had never sat in the big chair on the 40th floor, or let a single soul here learn his name. He had come today only because the route brought him, and because some quiet part of him wanted to see the place Harold had loved more than his own health. He turned the plain gold band on his left hand, the way he had every day for 6 years. Grace had given it to him back when he was hauling crates for a produce warehouse, and she was Harold's only daughter, and she had loved him anyway. And then a fever had taken her one February and left Sam with a little girl and a hole in the middle of everything. In his breast pocket was a folded square of paper. His daughter Lily had pressed it into his palm that morning at the bus stop. He hadn't read it yet. He was saving it. Across the lobby, Vale laughed at something on his phone, a short barking sound, and 2 younger executives laughed a half-second after him, the way men laugh when a paycheck depends on it. Sam watched them without expression. The clock over the reception desk read 4:51. He settled his shoulders against the cold window and let himself disappear. Sam had been a courier for the better part of 11 years, since long before he married into money he never touched. He liked the honesty of it, a thing needed to get from here to there, and he carried it. And at the end of the day his hands were tired and his conscience was clean. When Grace was alive, she used to tease him about it, about how her father would have handed him a corner office and a title, and Sam always said the same thing, that he would rather be a man people underestimated than a man people feared. She never fully understood it. He wasn't sure he did either. He only knew the fear had a source, and the source had a small voice. He carried a certain worry the way other men carried a bad knee. He had watched what money did to people. He had watched it at Harold's dinner table, where cousins circled the old man's chair and calculated his breathing. He had seen kind faces go cold the moment a balance sheet entered the room. And somewhere underneath all of it lived a question his own daughter had asked him once, years ago, that he had never been able to answer. He had been carrying that unanswered question far longer than he had carried Harold's shares. If you have ever been the quiet one in a room full of people too important to see you, stay with me for this. And if stories about invisible people finding their moment mean something to you, take a breath and subscribe before we go on. It costs you nothing, and it keeps these stories alive. The thing about being unseen is that you notice everything. Sam noticed the receptionist flinch each time a phone rang. He noticed the way the security guard by the elevators kept his eyes down. He noticed which employees said thank you to the woman refilling the water cooler, and which ones stepped around her like she was a wet spot on the floor. A lobby will tell you the whole truth about a company if you sit in it long enough and nobody thinks you're listening. At 4:58, a cleaning cart came squeaking across the marble, one bad wheel chirping with every turn. The woman pushing it was small and gray-haired, in a uniform 2 sizes too large, and she moved with the careful economy of someone whose feet had already carried her through a full day. Her name tag said Delia. She was headed for the executive lounge to empty the bins before the weekend, and she did not know, and Sam did not know, that in the next 4 minutes he would learn exactly what kind of place his father-in-law's company had become. He watched Delia steer that squeaking cart toward the glass-walled lounge where Vale and his men were finishing their Friday drinks, and he felt, low in his chest, the first cold turn of something he had spent his whole life trying not to feel. There is a question my daughter asked me once, and I want you to hear it the way I did. She was 7 years old. We were standing in line at a hardware store, and a man ahead of us was screaming at a cashier, a boy really, 16 maybe, over a wrong price on a can of paint. The man had a gold watch and an expensive coat, and he made that boy cry in front of a line of strangers, and nobody said a word. When it was over, Lily tugged my sleeve and looked up at me with those serious eyes she got from her mother. "Dad," she said, "when people get money, do they get to stop being nice, or do they just choose to?" And then, before I could answer, the harder one. "If you ever got rich, which one would you be?" I opened my mouth, and nothing came out, because the truth was, I didn't know. I had never had power, and I had watched what it did to men who did, and I could not promise my own child, standing there in the paint aisle, that I would be different. I said something soft and useless. "Let's go home, sweetheart," and she took my hand, satisfied the way children are, and I carried that unanswered question out of the store, like a splinter I couldn't reach. Grace was still alive then. That night, I told her about it, and she didn't laugh. She said, "That's the only question that matters, isn't it? Everybody's kind when they're powerless. It doesn't count until you could get away with cruelty, and you don't." I never forgot it. When Harold got sick and started talking about the shares, that splinter went so deep I could feel it in my sleep. Because I was about to become exactly the kind of man who could get away with anything. So I made myself a rule, unspoken and private. I would never use what I had inherited to make myself bigger than another person. I kept driving the route. I kept my old jacket. I told no one. I thought that was the whole answer to Lily's question. To simply refuse the power. To set it in a drawer and never open it. I would not understand how much I had left out of that answer until I was sitting on a hard bench watching a woman push a squeaking cart toward a room full of men. The lounge door was propped open, so the lobby heard all of it. Delia rolled her cart in, murmured an apology for the interruption, and reached for the bin beside Vale's chair. Her cart clipped the leg of a low table, and a half-full glass tipped and left a dark ring on a stack of printed reports. It was nothing. A napkin would have fixed it. But Vale rose slowly out of his chair, the way a man does when he has decided to enjoy himself. "Are you serious?" he said. Not loud. Worse than loud. "Do you have any idea what these are worth? Do you people get any training at all? Or do they just hand you a mop and point?" Delia was already dabbing at the paper with the hem of her sleeve, saying, sorry, sir, I'll have it cleaned." And every sorry seemed to feed him. "Leave the reports," he said. "You'll only smear them worse. Wipe the floor where it splashed. That, at least, is something you're qualified for. The lounge went quiet. The two younger executives studied their drinks, and Delia, 60 years old if she was a day, lowered herself with a rag and began to wipe a spot the size of a coin off spotless marble. Sam's hands closed around the envelope on his knee until the cardboard bent. Across the room their eyes almost met, Delia's, wet and fixed on the floor, and Sam's, hard above his collar. And she looked away first, ashamed of a thing that was not hers to be ashamed of. That was when a young woman stepped forward from the reception pool. She wore a blazer a size too big, borrowed-looking, and a thin silver chain with a small cross at her throat that she touched once, quickly, for courage. Her name was Priya. She had been at the company 11 weeks. "Sir," she said, and her voice shook, but it did not stop. "She doesn't need to do that. I can bring you a fresh copy of the reports in 2 minutes." Vale turned his head toward her with an expression of mild wonder, as though a chair had spoken. "And you are?" "Priya Nair. I'm in accounts. I only meant. I know what you meant." He let the silence stretch until it hurt. Here's some free advice for someone 11 weeks into a career. When a grown-up is handling something, you don't put your hand up. You'll learn that, or you won't be here long enough to learn anything. He turned back to his drink. Delia kept wiping. Priya stood frozen with her hand at the little cross, cheeks blazing, and lowered her arm. Sam watched a woman scrub a floor that did not need scrubbing, while a girl who had tried to help got slapped down for it. And the splinter he had carried for years turned, at last, all the way through him. Vale's gold cufflink caught the light as he lifted his glass. On the desk behind them, unseen by every soul in the room, was a computer that knew exactly who was sitting on the bench by the window. Vale finished his drink and came out into the lobby, and his good mood needed one more thing to land on. His eyes found Sam. "You still here?" he said. "The legal drop goes to the freight desk. Down the hall, past the restrooms, the door that isn't marble, or is that too complicated?" Sam stood. He was a big man when he uncurled from a bench, taller than Vale had assumed, and for a moment, something flickered behind the executive's confidence, and then reasserted itself. Sam held out the envelope. "It's addressed to the General Counsel by hand," he said quietly. "I was told it needs a signature from the 40th floor. That's the instruction on the label." "The instruction?" Vale repeated, delighted. "You hear this? He's got instructions." The younger men chuckled on cue. "Champ, I don't care if it's addressed to the Pope. You wait where you're told. You go where you're pointed. And you do not stand there quoting a label to me like it makes you somebody. Sit down. And here is the thing I have to tell you honestly, because I promised you the truth." Sam wanted to say it. The sentence was right there, whole and heavy on his tongue. "My name is on your ownership record. This is my building, and you are humiliating my people in my lobby." He could feel exactly how it would taste, how the color would drain from Vale's face, how the younger men would scatter like startled birds. For one long second, the temptation was so strong it frightened him, because it did not feel like justice. It felt like the gold watch in the hardware store. It felt like every man he had ever sworn not to become. So he sat back down, and Priya, God bless her, tried one more time. She had gathered fresh reports, and she brought them to Vale with steady hands, and she said, softly but clearly enough for the room, "Sir, the courier's label is right. Hand signature deliveries do go to 40, and Delia has done nothing wrong. I'm sorry, but somebody should say it." Vale did not chuckle this time. He set down the reports very carefully. "Clear your desk," he said. "You're done. Monday, you don't come back. Anyone else feel like being brave?" Priya's chin trembled. Her hand went to the little cross, but she did not cry, and she did not run, and she did not take it back. She just stood there, fired, refusing to look away, and Sam, on his bench, finally understood what bravery was supposed to look like, because a girl 11 weeks into her career had just shown him. He took the folded square of paper out of his breast pocket then. Lily had made him promise to read it at the end of the day, and it was near enough to the end. His hands were not quite steady. He unfolded it under the flat lobby light, while a fired girl gathered her things, and an old woman climbed slowly back to her feet. His daughter had drawn a small sun in the corner, the way she always did, and underneath it, in careful 9-year-old letters, she had written 3 words. "Be brave, Dad." That was all. Not be kind, not be good, not stay safe. Be brave. As if she had known. As if some part of her remembered a question she'd asked at 7, and was still, patiently, waiting for her father to answer it. Sam sat very still and let 2 years of quiet reasoning fall away. Grace's voice came back to him, clear as the day she'd said it. It doesn't count until you could get away with cruelty, and you don't. But there was a second half she'd never lived long enough to say, and he heard it now in his daughter's 3 words, plain, as if she'd whispered it against his ear. It also doesn't count until you could stop cruelty, and you do. He had spent years mistaking a closed drawer for a clean conscience, and a child with a crayon had just shown him the difference. He folded the note along its worn crease and put it back over his heart. Then he took out his phone, an old scratched thing, and he did not call the police, and he did not call the papers. He typed a short message to the one number Harold's lawyers had given him 4 months ago and never expected him to use. Warren Shaw, General Counsel, 40th floor. The message said only, "I'm in the lobby. Come down. Bring the cap table up on the main screen and sign my delivery." Then Sam Ellery stood up from the bench for the last time, as a nobody, walked to the center of the marble floor, and waited. He did not raise his voice. He did not point. He simply stopped being furniture, and the change in him was enough that the lobby noticed before it understood. Vale frowned. "I told you to sit. I'd rather stand for this," Sam said. His voice was low and even, and it carried farther than a shout. "Somebody's on his way down. I think you should all wait for him." The elevator chimed. A tall man in his 60s came out at a near run, tie loose, reading glasses shoved up into gray hair, and the sight of him straightened every executive's spine, because the general counsel did not come down to reception, ever. Warren Shaw scanned the lobby, and when he saw the man in the gray courier jacket standing in the middle of the floor, he stopped as if he'd hit glass. Then he did something no one in that room had ever seen him do. He crossed the marble and extended his hand and said, "Mr. Ellery, I am so sorry. I didn't know you were in the building." The word Ellery meant nothing to Vale yet. He was still working up an objection when Shaw turned to the enormous display screen behind the reception desk, the one that usually cycled stock photos of the corporate campus, and tapped a command into the desk terminal. The screensaver died. In its place bloomed the company ownership record, cold blue and enormous, line after line of names and percentages. And at the very top, in a font tall enough to read from the street, sat a single controlling entry: Samuel R. Ellery, majority holder. For a moment nobody breathed. You could hear the espresso machine hiss behind the counter. Delia stood with her rag forgotten in her hand. Priya, halfway to the door with a box of her things, turned around. Vale looked at the screen, and then at the courier, and then at the screen again, and the color went out of his face exactly the way Sam had imagined it would an hour before. Except that Sam felt no pleasure in it now. He felt only tired and clear. "Harold Vance was my wife's father," Sam said into the silence. "He left me the company 4 months ago. I never came in because I was afraid of what a place like this could turn a man into. So I kept driving my route, and I told myself that staying small was the same as staying good." He glanced at Priya, at the cross at her throat. "A young woman just taught me it isn't. You can't stay clean by keeping your hands in your pockets while somebody drowns." The clock over the desk read 32 minutes past 5. Vale found his voice then, the way such men always do, reaching for the version of the story that lets them walk out upright. "Mr. Ellery, I think there's been a misunderstanding. It was end of the week. Tempers were high. Those reports were confidential material, and I was protecting company property. If I'd had any idea who—" He stopped because he heard it himself, heard the whole shape of what he was admitting, and the sentence died in his mouth with nowhere honest to go. If you'd had any idea who I was, Sam finished for him, quiet as ever. That's exactly the problem. You'd have been gentle for the cameras. I don't want the man who behaves when he's watched. I've met that man in a lot of rooms. He did not gloat, and he did not lean in. You called me champ. You told a woman who's worked here longer than you to get down and wipe a floor that was already clean. You fired a girl for defending someone weaker than herself, and you did all of it believing no one who mattered was in the room. That's the only version of you there is, the one that comes out when you think there are no consequences. Clear your office tonight. Warren has the paperwork. And that was all. There was no crowd turned against him, no security dragging him out. Vale stood in the ruin of his own certainty, while the two younger executives edged away from his side, having discovered, the way such men always do, an urgent need to be somewhere else. He gathered what was left of himself and walked to the turnstiles, and the little green light let him through one last time, and then he was gone into the ordinary dark of the street. Sam turned to the gray-haired woman still clutching her rag. "Delia," he said, gently, "come here a moment." She came, uncertain, holding the rag against her chest like a shield. "You were asked to kneel down tonight over a spilled drink. That will never happen in this company again, while my name is at the top of that screen. Your pay is doubled as of today, and you report to no one who was in that lounge." Her mouth opened and closed. She looked at the great blue screen and then back at the plain man in the courier jacket, and something in her seemed to fight itself. Pride against 40 years of being told to be grateful. "I only ever wanted to do my work and go home," she said, and her voice cracked on it. "I didn't want a fuss made." Her eyes filled and spilled over. "But thank you. Thank you." Sam shook his head softly, because gratitude was not what he wanted from her. He wanted her to walk out of that lobby knowing she had never, for 1 second, been worth less than the men in the glass room. "Priya Nair," he faced the young woman by the door. "You objected once, and when it cost you, you objected again. You were fired 11 minutes ago for telling the truth, and you never let go of that cross around your neck." Priya's hand flew to it, and a sound came out of her that was half a sob and half a laugh. "The firing is void. As of Monday, you're moving off the reception pool. I want you in a role where speaking up is the job, not the risk. Warren will find the right title. Pick something with a door that closes, so the next person who's scared has somebody to go to." Then he held out the padded envelope he had carried for 11 hours. "Warren, this still needs a signature from the 40th floor." Shaw signed it against the reception desk, both of them nearly smiling, and the last delivery of the day was finally, properly done. Some months later, there was a spring afternoon, and a girl of 9 sat swinging her legs on a bench in the very same lobby, waiting for her father to finish a meeting he now attended in person. The bad wheel on Delia's cart had been fixed, and Delia herself trained the new hires on where the good coffee was, and made sure every courier who came through got offered a cup. Priya had a small office with a door that closed, and a plate on it that said her name, and people with shaking hands and true things to say had learned the way to her room. Sam came down at last, no courier jacket now, just a plain man in a plain suit that still didn't quite fit the way the tailor wanted. Lily jumped off the bench and took his hand. "Did you fire anybody today?" she asked, because she'd heard the story of the lobby from Delia herself, and had decided her father was slightly famous. Sam laughed. "No, sweetheart. Good days, nobody has to be fired. Good days, people are just kind because someone's finally watching." They walked toward the turnstiles together, and the green light let them through. And near the doors, Lily stopped. She looked up at him with her mother's serious eyes, and Sam knew, before she opened her mouth, which question was coming, because it was the one that had waited 7 years in a hardware store aisle for an answer. "Dad," she said, "you've got all this money now. Are you one of the nice ones or one of the mean ones?" This time he did not go quiet. He crouched down to her level, right there on the marble, where an old woman had once been made to kneel, and he held both her small hands in his. "I'm one of the ones who uses it to stand in front of people who can't stand up for themselves," he said. "That's the only kind worth being, Lily, because I learned something in this room. Dignity doesn't check your bank balance on the way in. Every single person who walks through that door has the same amount of it, and my whole job now is to make sure nobody in here ever forgets that. She thought about it, the way she thought about everything, and then she nodded, satisfied at last. She had waited a long time for her father to answer her question, and he had finally answered it not with words in a store, but with a lobby full of people who could hold their heads up. They pushed through the glass doors into the ordinary light of the street, a big, quiet man holding the hand of his small, brave daughter, and behind them the doors swung shut on a lobby that was warm now, and easy, and in no hurry to forget the evening it had learned to stand up straight. These stories are made with love, and this one was made for anyone who has ever been told to wait by the door. If it stayed with you, take a moment and subscribe to this channel. That is all I ask.